Now we're going to play with a system called PCloud or particle cloud. This system is generally used to simulate, say, a flock of birds travelling together, a school of fish travelling together, and other objects that travel in packs. So what we need to do is first start out by drawing out our emitter, both the length, width and height of our emitter. It's quite easy, we just pick, drag, drag and pick. Now we can tell it what type of emitter. We could go and pick a specific object to become an emitter. Let's say it may be a hemisphere or a shape of a clouds or something like that. Or we can just use some base geometry. So we could tell it to be a spherical emitter, a cylinder and a fill based emitter. But I'm just going to leave it at the box emitter for now. Here we can see the icon size, so we could just change that to 100 in length, 150 in width and 60 in height. Now we've got some more exact settings on our emitter. We can tell the emitter to hide and we can only see the particles, but for now I'm just going to leave my emitter on. We can tell the emitter how to display the particles and what percentage of the particles to display. Then that brings us down to the particle generation. We can change the number of particles that we're using. We can also change the total number of particles. We can change the speed and variation on speed of the particles. So now we can see the particles are sort of doing their own thing. We can set all the particles to travel in a certain direction, so they're traveling more like a school of fish or a flock of birds. And at this point we can actually reference other objects in instead of particles. So if we had a bit of 3D geometry for a bird or a fish, we could tell it that we're going to use a reference object and we could pick that object. So what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to step away from the particle system and just go to my standard objects and I'm going to drop a teapot in. I'm using a teapot because it's quite simple to use and it has a direction. We're going to see what it's doing. I then reselect the particle system and I go to the modify palette, and here we can see all the controls that we were playing with earlier. I'm now going to pick the teapot as my bit of geometry, and you can't actually see what's happened there because I still have ticks as my viewport. If I ticked mesh, we could see that just what's happening here is we've got teapots, little teapots appearing. So all I need to do now is, say, mess with the variation, the speed, the particle timing when they start and when they stop. So I might tell them to stop at 60. Displayed units, we'll just bring that down to say 50. The lifespan, variation on the lifespan, and the particle size. If I bring that up now, we can see that what we see here is little triangular meshes that are sort of telling us what's going on in there. We have variation on size, growth, a new seed. We can change the particle types. So there's quite a lot we can do with a PCloud. I'll just pick that teapot again. There we can see the teapots now being used. So it's quite a powerful little command. It may be a bit too much for my computer to display what's happening here. And now we can see that the teapots are replicating and moving around. So it's a neat little command if you want to simulate flocks of birds and so on, and it's well worth playing with. I'd at least have a play with it and see what you can do.